And this is the part of the story we all know. It says, "Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights," which is Jonah 1:17. Now, this is one of those real popular Sunday school stories. So unfortunately, this is one of those many very serious, very adult, somewhat gruesome stories from the Bible that we Disneyize in our imagination. If you haven't actually read the book of Jonah, you just kind of know the story. I think most of us kind of imagine like this scene from Pinocchio in our head of like what it's like Jonah's just sitting in a whale playing cards or fishing or reading a book, just kind of hanging out for 3 days and 3 nights. And that is not even close to what the biblical account is of the ordeal Jonah has inside the belly of the fish, the belly of the great whale. So, a lot of people object. How can someone possibly survive for 3 days and 3 nights in a whale? Well, there is an account from 1896 of a guy named James Barton. Allegedly, he survived being swallowed by a sperm whale off the coast of the Falkland Islands. He was in the whale for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't come out looking all clean and crisp like Geppetto. In fact, the stomach acids of the whale had bleached him completely white. His skin was like permanently damaged, and he was blind for the rest of his life. So that's one story. There's also numerous stories on the internet about people surviving being inside whales, but the internet is notorious for making up silly, ridiculous stories just because they enjoy watching people look like fools because they just accept it and they pass it around. So I am not going to defend the validity of someone surviving inside a whale for 3 days. Can it happen if God wants it to happen? Absolutely. He definitely could have preserved Jonah alive for 3 days and 3 nights. But because of the specific wording Jesus uses, I'm going to give you an alternative hypothesis. I don't think Jonah survived for 3 days in the belly of the whale. So let's look at Jesus' language. But he answered them, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." So I ask you, was Jesus just hanging out for 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth? No. He was dead. And the Father resurrected him. That's what this is all about. Our blessed hope, the whole point of Christianity, is that of resurrection on the last day. So it's in that context when we read Jonah's prayer in chapter 2. Think of it as a dead man crying out to God from inside the belly of the fish, crying out from the pit. Think of it as a prophecy of Jesus calling to his Father from Sheol. Because Sheol is a Hebrew word. It's basically translated the pit, hell, the abode of the dead, the grave. It's where people go when they're dead, according to the Old Testament, Sheol. And think of it as your prayer if you are not yet born again. So, Jonah chapter 2. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord, his God, from the belly of the fish, saying, "I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried," to indicate he's dead. "And you heard my voice, for you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the floods surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. Then I said, I am driven away from your sight, yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. The water closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. At the roots of the mountains, I went down to the land, whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. When my life was fading away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hopes of steadfast love. But I, with a voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you what I have vowed to pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord." And the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out upon the dry land. So, it's interesting also, if you read verse 9, if you read it in Hebrew, salvation belongs to the Lord, it would be Yeshua of Yehovah. Jesus literally means salvation of the Lord. So he is crying out to Jesus and giving life.